Everyone is wrong about Waylay, and in this video, I'll show you why Waylay is different to all the other duelists in Valorant, how to play her, and how to unlock her full potential. Waylay has been out for almost a week, and the community reaction has been mixed. Some calling her broken, some calling her trash.
I think this might be individually the worst agent on launch.
Let me tell you, she's nuts.
Mid. Mid.
But one thing that has been consistent, everyone making comparisons of her abilities to ones that already exist in the game. It's like Chamber TP crossed with Phoenix ult. It's like Jett's Tailwind and Updraft combined. It's like a Breach ult, but they're missing the point. One thing that stands about Waylay's release is indeed that she doesn't bring any new quote-unquote mechanics to the game. And one could argue that all of her abilities are variations on existing abilities, but they are new abilities. And just because they share characteristics does not make them the same. Even Hinder is basically just a stun. See, you're kind of completely wrong. There are important distinctions that completely change how this ability is used from a stun. And that goes for all of her other abilities as well. Those distinctions matter as to how Waylay is meant to be played. Before we dive in, I've got a question for you. What do all the other duelists except Waylay have in common? I'll get to the answer in a little bit, but while you mull it over, let's actually break down Waylay's abilities.
Let's dig in.
Let's first focus on Refract and Lightspeed. These two abilities caused a lot of discussion in the similarity of Jett's Tailwind and Updraft. So not only two similar abilities, but two similar abilities from the same agent. And the reason for that, as you probably noticed, is that these two pairs of abilities have the same three functions. Untradeability, or a get out of jail free card as some people call it, but let's be real, that takes way too long to say. A horizontal dash, and a vertical dash. But there's actually more differences than similarities here. Let's focus on Refract first, seeing as it's the signature ability of Waylay. Refract is Waylay's get out of jail free card. It's a signature ability, and it works by allowing Waylay to put an anchor on the ground, which gives her the option to recall herself back to the anchor for the next 8 seconds. Anchor on the ground, recall, sound familiar? It's kind of like Chamber TP or Phoenix ult. Yeah, it's kind of like those, but not. It's got its own unique characteristics, so let's break it down. Firstly, the cast. Waylay primes Refract first, then on reactivation triggers the recall. When Waylay primes Refract, it's like Phoenix's ult in the sense that it leaves an anchor on the ground. But did you notice the difference? Waylay doesn't have to put her gun away, just like when Jett primes Tailwind. And what about the second activation of the ability? Well, that's not like Jett Dash at all. It's a lot more similar to Chamber's Rendezvous. It's also nothing like Run It Back, because Waylay and Chamber can choose when they want to trigger the ability. Chamber and Waylay even share the same wind-up time for their recall. However, Waylay doesn't instantly teleport like Chamber. She has travel time. After recalling, Waylay's time in which she can be ready to fight again is much longer. Chamber is able to fight again in just 1.3 seconds. But Waylay, she's out of the fight for a minimum 2.1 seconds, up to 4.5 seconds depending on how far away she is from her anchor. The trade-off that Waylay gets is a quicker setup and not being range restricted by her anchor. Now can you see that even though in some scenarios these abilities might play out quite similarly, in others they are completely different. Chamber's Rendezvous allows him to hold space by being able to take fights that are normally death sentences and play a rolling retreat scenario that he can keep fighting as he gets pushed and fall back. Even if he makes mistakes or is a bit overzealous, he can recover. Waylay though, she needs to hit her mark and assess the risk beforehand. And it's not just when, where, or if you should push something, it's where you can place your beacon. Your evaluation of the situation will dictate how much risk you're willing to take. When you're playing Waylay, you might decide you want to take on less risk and prime Refract in a safer position. In doing so, you've reduced your window of opportunity to get value. As you become more experienced with Waylay and the game in general, you'll be greatly rewarded when you assess the situation correctly and push the envelope. Her Refract anchor has no range restriction. Combine that with the fact that you know that you can recall to safety at any moment means you're fully encouraged to take as much space as you can while you have your get out of jail free card or your Googe Fucker. Do you guys reckon? Do you reckon Googe Fucker is going to catch on? Shut up and get back to Waylay. We're not paying you to talk about Googe Fuckers. Actually, you're not paying me at all, but you can subscribe to my Twitch or Patreon if you like. Okay, back to it. Taking space with Refract. Wouldn't it be crazy if we had a mega long dash that we could use to take heaps of space all at once? Oh, well, would you gosh darn bloody look at that. Let's talk about light speed. I have a question. Timmy, if the question you're about to ask me is, isn't light speed like tailwind and updraft combined? I'll end the video right now. So what's your question, buddy? I forgot. Okay, well, I did say we're going to quash the jet comparisons. Tailwind plus updraft is a fair analysis at a glance. You see light speed, you see it has 2 dashes, 1 vertical, 1 horizontal. That's what jet has. Let's talk about it. Because when you get into the details, you can see how different they're going to play out. Firstly, and most obvious, the casting mechanic. Jet's updraft is a quick cast, and tailwind, as we mentioned earlier, is a prime and activate, giving it a degree of flexibility in its use. Notably, not having to put your gun away when you're priming tailwind allows you to get into aggressive but covered positions and then use tailwind to escape if needed or push the envelope. Waylay's light speed is an equip and cast ability. This is a huge, monumental, gigantic difference. And it's not just like light speed is worse than tailwind for getting out of sticky situations. It's just not doable. Only similar use case is something like B main, where you push across to the pocket and then you can dash back out for safety. Even then, it's so slow to use. If you're getting hard pushed, you are not in a good spot. It's a very deliberate point of difference that the untradeability of Waylay's kit exists in Refract, whereas Jet's tailwind is actually a combination of light speed and refract, not the other way around. Tailwind, broadly speaking, has common use cases with light speed and refract, and the flexibility of those use cases jammed into one ability is Jet's biggest strength and her biggest limiter. Waylay's strength in comparison is how she can combine and separate her ability use within a round. For example, at some point in the round, she might look to contact an angle with refract active, and then later in the round, she can still entry sight with light speed. Jet, by comparison, would either have to give up the safety of her Gujfk or give up her entry dash for sight. But in return, Jet's access to verticality is far greater than Waylay's. In the same vein, if Waylay wants access to verticality, she has to give up her dash for it, and she can't even do it pre-round. So good luck setting up defensively in a vertical position, because the attack is going to know exactly where you are, which is problematic because she's so exposed on platforms that a Jet or Chamber might thrive on by being able to use their Gujfk. Seriously, let me know in the comments. What do you think about this acronym? Gujfk. Which leads us to the op. Literally everything about Jet's kit screens, give me the op. You have tailwind for peaking angles or holding off angles. Updraft to get into those vertical spots where you abuse natural crosshair placements for free kills. Can also be used in a pinch to up your chances of survival in sticky situations, just like Cloudburst. And last but certainly not least, Bladestorm. Do you know how much an op costs? 4,700 credits. In this economy? No way. Not unless I can cheat my econ by not having to buy a gun for a round. Oh, wait. Comparatively, Waylay says, keep that thing the f away from me. Convergent paths? No synergistic value other than making sitting ducks even more sat, I guess. Wow, what a sentence. Lightspeed, some minor synergy at best with taking vertical positions and escapability in a very limited selection of positions. We already spoke about that as flawed logic. Saturate, minor synergy in having it as a quick cast to stall so you can fall back. And even her signature ability, Refract, the primed untradeability mechanic synonymous with opping, isn't as good as its counterparts. In most situations, you'd be better off with Rendezvous or Tailwind. Rendezvous' weakness is you have to preset it, but you get infinite duration. Tailwind's weakness is its short duration, but you get to pop it whenever you like. Refract, though, you have to preset it and you're on a limited duration. You got the worst of both worlds. Put your pitchforks down. I'm not saying Refract is a bad ability. I'm just saying it's comparatively worse than Rendezvous and Tailwind for opping. So as you can see, even though the similarities exist at a surface level, Waylay and Jet play nothing alike. And we haven't even got to our other two abilities yet. Saturate is a grenade-like ability. It shares almost a one-to-one trajectory with Phoenix's Molly and applies the new status effect Hinder, which is mostly what we're going to be focusing on. The other important detail to mention is that this ability is quick cast. So let's talk about Hinder. Being hindered is like being stunned, but without the dazed effect. I bet you've heard that a lot. Everyone just glosses over it like it's not the main part of being stunned. The daze is not just a visual effect. It also increases your first shot spread and your bullet inaccuracy. When you stun someone, you are forcing them off that angle or into a near unwinnable fight. Let's pretend that cosmetic stuns don't exist for the rest of this video, okay? Being stunned also removes your ability to aim down sights. And Hinder does not affect first bullet accuracy whatsoever. What Hinder does is essentially put you into a slow motion state where everything you do is slowed. Not just your movement like a slow on the ground, everything. We're talking equip time, reload speed, fire rate, recoil recovery, everything except ADSing. Yeah, so if you get hindered, your ability to fight back is hindered, but your first shot and your speed of aiming down sights is completely unaffected. So if you're not already holding the angle or you're not ready for the fight, you're getting cooked. Because not only does it slow all your actions, it turns you into a slug for a moment, and then it slowly tapers off. Look at this comparative to a stun and a sage slow. You do not move anywhere for the first few seconds. What you need to realize is that you can't hinder someone off of a line and call it a day. Ops don't become unscoped. You'll get one tapped while you swing. So how is this anything like a stun? A stun will help you seize initiative for the fight, but a hinder helps you convert on fights where you already have initiative. What's initiative, you might ask? Initiative is like saying it's your turn. You have the ball. You're dictating the fight, which is why scan utility synergizes incredibly well with hinder. If you hit someone with scan plus hinder, you're able to pre-fire their tiny little zero brain cell head as you swing them. And it's a catch-22 for them, because if they try to shoot the dart or haunt, their fire rate and their recoil recovery plummets by 2/3, so they can't shoot you back like normal. So unlike the other duelists on the roster, whose abilities can turn the tides of battle and swing a duel into their favor, instead, Saturate, when using it selfishly or reactionarily, is much better as a disengaged defensive piece of utility. Its quick cast allows you to create space between you and your opponents. But come on, we're a duelist. We want to take space with our util. And yeah, Saturate is wonderful at that. You just need a bit of support. Riddle me this. If you can put someone into a pretty much immobile state, but it doesn't stop them from clicking your head, how would you then clear that threat? We can combo damaging pieces of util like mollies or grenades with Saturate so that they can't escape and they die on those angles that they're trying to hold. Quite a tactical bit of util, hey. Remember what I asked at the start of the video? What do all the duelists have in common? Did you guess it? What about if I add Waylay in? Can you guess the odd one out? All the duelists that came before Waylay, they're young, arrogant, they've got a chip on their shoulder, a point to prove. They're not afraid to dance with death, get in their opponent's faces, and bail themselves out of trouble or turn the fight in their favor with their quick wits. But what about Waylay? If all the duelists are the hammer, bashing their way into sight, recklessly swinging themselves around, drawing attention and dealing damage, Waylay is a scalpel. Nothing like these young hotshots. Waylay is a seasoned veteran whose years of experience allow her to get into the right positions and capitalize on her team's support. She thrives with precision, calculated risk. When diving in, she's completely exposed with no survivability or self-enabling dueling util, so she needs support. Yeah, she can escape, but if she's forced to retreat or recall, she gives up everything that she was working for. Waylay forgoes skirmishing power to have the deepest and safest entries of any character in the game. If you just recklessly send it, you'll be exposed. You're going to get no value and your team will suffer for it. But if you play like a squad leader, get the util that you need in the right spots, you will dominate. And now I hope you see the vision with Waylay ult. Convergent Paths isn't just a breach ult or an initiator like ult. Not everything that has a big square is an initiator ult, buddy. Convergent Paths is the ultimate 1-2 combo for Waylay to feast, dicing up the battlefield and collecting bodies. Convergent Paths also applies hinder, but it's for a longer duration than Saturate at 7 seconds and gives Waylay a buff. Enemies become highlighted, just like Reyna ult, and she gets a move speed buff, which is about as much of a boost as Brim's Stim Beacon. That's interesting. A bit of self-enablement, hey? I wonder why, if the ult was designed to be initiator-based, why does it have a self-stim? And why is it also when Waylay casts Convergent Paths, she's free to keep advancing before the effect triggers, almost like it's designed for her to capitalize on it herself. But what did we say about hinder? It's not foolproof for dueling. We need support, and Convergent Paths makes all of your support util easier to capitalize on. Again, fitting in with this motif of the seasoned veteran who understands the value of working as a unit. She makes the lives of her supporting cast even easier. She doesn't need to be flashy every round, but when the time comes, she's ready. She puts her teammates in the backpack, saving her bum-ass ranked teammates. To summarize, Waylay is different from your ranked solo queue run-it-down duelist. She's a team-focused duelist who can capitalize on util better than any other agent in the game. So tag your duo, head over to my Patreon and join for free, because I've got a Waylay ranked duos playbook coming out in just a few days. And get practicing, because
we got work to do.